Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Caffeinated Musings, the podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me today. You know, whenever I sit down to record these episodes, I imagine us just having a cup of coffee together, chatting about life, and all those things that really make us who we are. Today, we're going to dive into something close to my heart, and I think maybe close to yours too. What it feels like to stand out, to not quite fit in, and to navigate a world that sometimes doesn't know what to do with people like us. Have you ever had that moment where you're in a meeting and you share an idea, one you know is good, and it's met with silence? Or maybe you're at a social gathering and the conversations around you feel like they belong in a different universe? That feeling of being different, of not quite blending in, it can be isolating. But here's the thing I want you to hold on to today. That feeling, as uncomfortable as it might be, could be the very thing that makes you extraordinary. This episode isn't about slapping a label on those feelings or trying to box them up. It's about recognizing that being different is not a flaw. It's not something to fix or hide. It's a part of who you are, and it's something we're going to explore together. My hope is that by the end of this conversation, you'll feel a little more confident in your uniqueness, a little more at peace with where you are, and maybe even a little excited about what's possible for you. So let's get into it. Let's unpack the weight of feeling unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, and let's talk about how those very experiences can become a source of strength and inspiration. Because your story matters, and the world needs the version of you that's fully unapologetically yourself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a room and felt like you didn't belong? Like no matter how much you tried, your thoughts, your energy, even just your presence, felt out of sync with everyone else? Like no matter what you said or did, you just couldn't connect? Maybe it was at work, where everyone seemed to be on the same page, except their page didn't include you. Or maybe it was with friends, where the things that excite you felt out of place in the conversation. It's not just awkward, it's isolating, and it's heavy. That feeling of being different shows up in so many ways. And while it can be hard, it can also shape you in profound ways. Resilience is one of those gifts, though it doesn't always feel like one at the time. It's not just about bouncing back from tough moments. It's about learning to carry yourself through them. It's about navigating the silence, the dismissals, and the misunderstandings, and still finding the strength to say, I'm here and I matter. Sometimes it's intellectual, like being the person in a brainstorming session who suggests something bold while everyone else sticks to the safe route. Other times, it's social, like having values or interests that don't quite match the group's vibe. And then there's the deeply personal side, that quiet awareness that you see the world differently, that you feel things on a deeper level, and sometimes that you carry more than your fair share of self-doubt. I want you to take a moment and really think about this. When have you felt that way? Maybe it was in a meeting where your ideas were dismissed or ignored. Maybe it was in a relationship where you felt like you had to tone yourself down to make someone else comfortable. How did that feel? Frustrating, lonely, maybe even a little like you weren't enough? I've been there too. And I know how those moments can linger, turning into stories we tell ourselves about our worth. But here's the thing, that feeling, as hard as it is, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're broken or unworthy. It means you're seeing the world through your own unique lens. And while the world might not always celebrate that, it's something to be proud of. It's a sign of your depth, your individuality, and your courage to show up as yourself. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Far from it. Building resilience through these experiences can be exhausting. It can make you want to shrink yourself, to fit in or stay quiet, to avoid standing out. But what if we flip the script? What if, instead of seeing those moments as setbacks, we saw them as stepping stones, as opportunities to grow into the most authentic version of ourselves? I want you to know this. Every time you've felt unseen or unheard, it's been a moment of quiet strength, a chance to build resilience and rediscover who you are. Even in the frustration, there's growth happening, whether you realize it or not. Maybe it taught you how to stand firm in your values, even when it wasn't popular. Maybe it showed you how to adapt and find your voice in unexpected ways. Or maybe it simply reminded you that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's approval. Feeling different isn't a flaw, it's a strength, one that sets you apart even when it feels like it isolates you. It's a reminder that you're bringing something unique to the table. The world needs people who think differently, who challenge the status quo, and who see the world through a lens others might miss. And yes, it's frustrating when those differences aren't immediately valued, when your voice feels lost in the noise, or your contributions seem invisible. But don't let that frustration dim your light. Instead, think of those moments as proof that you're carving a path no one else can walk. You're here for a reason, with gifts and insights that only you can offer. And every time you embrace what makes you different, every time you show up as yourself, you're writing a story of courage and authenticity. It's not about becoming someone else's idea of success. It's about growing into the person you were always meant to be. One step, one choice, one brave moment at a time. So as we move forward, I want you to hold on to this. Your experiences, your struggles, your unique perspective, they all matter. They're part of a story that only you can tell. And while the path might not always be easy, it's shaping you into someone truly remarkable. Let's take a deep breath together. We've spent time unpacking the weight of feeling different, but now let's turn our attention to what's beneath that weight. Because here's the truth. Those struggles you've carried, the ones that have made you question your worth or your place in the world, are also the ones shaping you into someone extraordinary. Have you ever noticed how being on the outside gives you a clearer view? That's the magic of creativity. When you're not part of the crowd, you start to see possibilities that others miss. I remember early in my career, pitching ideas about digital marketing when it was still seen as a niche, almost laughable field. My suggestions were dismissed more times than I can count. I felt sidelined, too young, too out there. But looking back, those moments taught me something invaluable: how to think differently, how to innovate, and how to trust my instincts. Creativity isn't just about painting a masterpiece or composing music. It's about saying, what if, when no one else dares to? Now let's talk about empathy. If you've ever felt unseen, you know how much it means to feel understood. That's the gift those tough experiences give you, a deep awareness of others' feelings. For me, it came from years of letting others' opinions and emotions dictate my own. I thought I was being kind, accommodating, but really I was losing myself. It took time and a lot of reflection to realize that understanding others didn't mean giving up my own voice. Empathy is about connection, not surrender. It's what helps you build relationships that matter, relationships where people feel valued for who they truly are. And then there's adaptability. Let me share a personal moment. Imagine being undervalued at work, your ideas taken, but not credited. At the same time, in your personal life, feeling like you're bending over backward to meet someone else's expectations. That was me. 2 storms hitting at once. It forced me to pause, to adapt, and to rebuild. And that's the thing about adaptability. It's not about changing who you are. It's about learning to navigate challenges with grace, finding new paths when the old ones aren't working. Every time you've adjusted to a situation that didn't fit, you've built this muscle, this resilience that prepares you for anything life throws your way. And finally, authenticity. The one we sometimes fight the hardest to keep. I had to learn this the hard way, realizing my leadership and courage were being used by someone else to play it safe while I bore the risks. It hurt, but it also taught me to stand tall in my truth. Authenticity isn't just about being yourself. It's about refusing to let anyone else define what that means. It's about showing up, flaws and all, and daring to say, this is me. So now I want you to recall one moment in your life when you turned a challenge into something beautiful. When the world pushed back, but you pushed harder. These aren't just memories, they're your strengths. Your creativity, your empathy, your adaptability, your authenticity. They're the things that make you, you. Now that we've uncovered these strengths, let's talk about how to use them. Because recognizing your power is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you put it into action. Step 1, reconnect with your inner strengths. Let's start simple. Who are you when the world is quiet? When there are no expectations, no deadlines, no noise, that's where your inner strength lives. Take some time to reflect on it. Journaling is one of the best tools I've found for this. Write down the moments you're proud of, not the big, flashy accomplishments, but the quiet wins. The time you stood up for yourself. The time you kept going when it would have been easier to quit. These moments are proof of your resilience. And then there's mindfulness. Whether it's meditation, prayer, or just sitting outside with a cup of tea, these moments of stillness help you hear your own voice. They remind you of who you are beneath the layers of stress and expectation. They're a way of saying, I'm here and I matter. Step 2, embrace difficult but necessary decisions. Let's be honest, growth isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it means making hard choices, stepping away from relationships or environments that drain you, saying no to opportunities that don't align with your values. It's not easy. But ask yourself this, does staying here bring me closer to the person I want to be? If the answer is no, it's okay to walk away. For me, this meant stepping back from people and situations that didn't respect my boundaries. It hurt, but it also opened up space for the things that truly mattered. Trust yourself to make those hard calls, because every time you do, you're creating room for something better. Step 3, reframe challenges as opportunities. This one's tricky, but it's a game changer. Challenges are going to come. That's life. But what if, instead of seeing them as roadblocks, you saw them as stepping stones? When something feels hard, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? Rejection, for instance. It's painful, no doubt about it. But it's also a chance to refine your ideas, to get clearer about what you want and why. For me, I'll never forget when the professional and personal challenges I shared earlier collided. At first, they felt overwhelming, almost too much to bear. But as I began to reframe them, I realized they were giving me something invaluable. Time with myself. Time to reflect, to grow, to reconnect with who I really was beneath all the noise. And that space, though born of struggle, became the best thing that ever happened to me. Finding gratitude in those moments wasn't immediate, but when it came, it changed everything. I learned to cherish the stillness, to appreciate the lessons that came wrapped in difficulty. Reframing challenges isn't about pretending they don't hurt. It's about uncovering the hidden gifts they leave behind. It's about taking back your power and becoming an active participant in your life. Step 4, stay true to yourself. This might be the hardest step, but it's the one that makes all the others worth it. In a world that often tells you to fit in, staying true to yourself can feel like an act of rebellion. But it's also your greatest strength. Your authenticity is what sets you apart, what makes your voice valuable. Surround yourself with people who celebrate you for who you are, not who they want you to be. Find mentors, friends, communities that inspire you to grow without asking you to shrink. And when you feel the urge to dim your light, remember this. You're here for a reason. Your story, your voice, your journey, it all matters. Step 5, practice gratitude. Gratitude is often overlooked, but it's a hidden ingredient in true fulfillment, happiness, and calm. Take a moment each day to acknowledge what you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's the way the sunlight hits your desk in the morning, or a kind word from a friend, or even just the fact that you made it through a tough day. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It reminds you of what's good, even when everything else feels hard. And when you combine gratitude with self-awareness, you unlock a sense of peace that grounds you in the present while giving you hope for the future. So let me ask you, what's one step you can take today to honor your strengths? Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's setting a boundary, maybe it's just taking a deep breath and reminding yourself, I am enough. Whatever it is, start there, because every step forward is a step toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. Before we close today, let's take a moment to sit with these thoughts and let them settle. These strengths, these steps, they aren't just ideas. They're part of your story, your journey. And as we move forward, we'll bring everything together, finding ways to carry this deeper understanding with us. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to pause for a moment and just thank you. Thank you for taking this time for yourself, for listening, and for allowing me to share this space with you. These conversations mean so much to me, and I hope they mean something to you too. We've talked about a lot today, about the challenges of feeling different, about the strengths those challenges can bring out in you, and about the steps you can take to turn those strengths into a life that feels true and fulfilling. But I don't want this to just be words in your ears. I want this to be a moment of connection, a moment where you feel seen and heard, and maybe even a little lighter than when we started. Let's revisit one idea that I think ties it all together. Your journey is your own. No one else has the right to define it. No one else gets to tell you how it should look or feel. And the very things that make you feel out of place now could be the things that lead you to a future you can't yet imagine. So, if there's one thing I hope you take away from today, it's this. There's nothing wrong with you. You are enough, just as you are, even as you work to grow and change and become the person you're meant to be. I want you to imagine this. It's a quiet moment. Maybe you're sitting by a window, or maybe you're on a walk, taking in the world around you. And in that moment, you think about all the parts of yourself that you've been hiding or second-guessing, all the times you felt out of place or not enough. And then you let them go, not because they don't matter, but because they don't define you. Instead, you focus on what does define you. Your creativity, your empathy, your strength, your authenticity. These aren't just words, they're the pieces of you that are quietly, powerfully shaping your story. And if you can carry one thing from this episode, I hope it's the belief that those pieces are enough to build something incredible. I know this isn't always easy. There will be days when doubt creeps in, when the voices of others feel louder than your own. On those days, I want you to come back to this moment, to remember that you are not alone, that you are stronger than you think, and that you are capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. Growth isn't linear, and it's rarely easy, but it is worth it. And you are worth it. Thank you for being here with me today, for trusting me with your time and your thoughts. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts, your stories, your reflections. This space isn't just for me, it's for us. And the more we share, the more we grow. Take care of yourself, and remember, your story matters. Until next time.